Greetings, dear viewers, and welcome to my shadowy world. You may be wondering where the anime overviewer is, and who this dashing gentleman before you may be. Well, suffice to say that my illustrious friend will not be joining us tonight. Don't believe me? I am the abyssal appraiser of awful anime, the Black Lord of bad television, the grinning ghoul of ghastly games, the anti-viewer! To kick off my takeover of this show, I will be reviewing a delightfully atrocious piece of the anime based on games genre, Tekken, the animated movie! I'm sure you're all aware of the massively popular fighting game series Tekken, created in 1992 by the company Namco. It took the world by storm with its great fighting mechanics, its tragic storylines, and its apropos humor. The next logical step, other than the 1996 sequel, Tekken 2, was to make a full-length animated motion picture, simply titled Tekken, the Motion Picture. I know there was a lot of build-up for this movie. It was highly anticipated by the series' massive fanbase, and the result was less than satisfying. To be frank, it was a delightfully atrocious piece of droppings that would make even the creators of the Dragon Ball live-action movie balk. But do not take my maniacal laughter for it. Trust in the wisdom of my review. Now, let us begin our mystical journey through the hell that is Tekken!
First off, a look at the characters of the movie. The hero of this tale is everyone's favorite Vegeta impersonator, Kazuya Mishima. Most of you know him as the bitter, ruthless protagonist of the first game, whose only goal in life is the death of his father and the conquering of the world. Or something to that effect. His movie counterpart is relatively the same, except for the fact that his voice sounds like Nappa from Dragon Ball. Oh yes, and his eyebrows look like goddamn toothbrushes. I mean, just look at those things. It's like he killed Dr. Eggman and took his mustache as a headband. But, Eggman aside, this character is relatively faithful to the game counterpart, and is overall acceptable, especially compared to Jun Hazama. Yes, I know Jun was never in the first game, and yes, I know that this movie is based on the events of the first game, but apparently the makers of this movie decided Kazuya needed some form of social conscience, his regular brain being too one-track to function as anything else but a tape recorder playing revenge over and over again. I say this because that's all she truly is in this movie, a little voice that constantly attempts to dissuade Kazuya from committing patricide and prompting impromptu friendship speeches every other line. Now, I don't know much of her game personality, having started my Tekkening at the third game, but I'm quite sure that Jun Hazama was not a prettier version of Tear Gardner from Yu-Gi-Oh! She is introduced as a strong, independent practitioner of the martial arts, and yet whenever she does fight, she always seems to be losing. And the hilarious thing is that she gets more screen time than the movie's actual protagonist, Kazuya. Yes, because that's what everyone wants to see. A girl in short shorts, helpless amongst a throng of incredibly muscled men, unable to defend herself or even resist. Moving on! The placeholder for Heihachi as main villain is his evil, scheming, adopted son and lawyer, Miles Edgeworth! I mean Lee Chowlan. His main motivation seems to be acting like a nasally voiced Bond villain who hates Kazuya almost as much as he does good voice acting. He is assisted in this by the incredibly voluptuous, cold-hearted Irish assassin Nina Williams. God, I hate this movie. But of course, what would Nina be without her backstabbing, Lee-sexing bombshell of a sister, the equally Irish Anna Williams? These two are acceptable, although I can't recall either of them ever having been with Lee. The most redeeming quality of these two is the infamous shower scene where we see all of Anna's well-endowed form, nipples included. But you don't get to see it! I'm much too evil to allow you that pleasure! There's also Lei Wulong, the cheerful, happy-go-lucky, ponytailed homage to international martial arts sensation Jackie Chan. I'm sorry, I mean the ineffectual, annoying, borderline sexist, non-ponytail partner of June. He just seems to stand around, take out underlings, make attempted jokes, and be the comic relief for a character whose very nature is tragic. Well, there's her, but I really mean him! Konjac, the little girl sporting android with feelings and more firepower than a missile battery. True to form, he is a soft-spoken giant who provides most of the action value in the movie. He's not so bad. I mean, at least he acts like Game Jack, caring for his little friend, kicking copious amounts of ass, and being a point of sympathy in an otherwise detestable movie. But what would a great cast of heroes be without equally impressive villains? Nothing! Absolutely nothing! Villains are the heart of every story! We add excitement to it and make it awesome! And Tekken is no exception! Is what I wish I could say, but sadly reality is rarely that generous. Of course, the big-named baddie of the entire movie is my personal favorite wing-tipped old bastard, Heihachi Mishima! However, the movie fails to do him justice. He's threatening, but aside from that, makes no real effort to involve himself in the plot, always appearing at some sort of evil conference or announcing things that have no general impact, only truly stepping forth at the end. But I can forgive this. A good final boss is one that appears at the end. And what I can't forgive, however, are his henchmen. Now that we've dealt with the characters, let's move on to... Oh yes, I'd forgotten. Allow me to say this some time. No dialogue, no impact, and no explanation! Next up is the biggest problem with this movie. Its plot! Oh, where do I start? The whole thing centers on Kazuya and his single-minded quest to kill his father, and on June and her single-minded quest to be an irritation to him. So why does Kazuya want to kill his daddy dearest? It may have something to do with him throwing his son off a goddamn cliff! Oh, I'm sorry. That's supposed to be tragic. Yes, quite awful. The whole thing is presented to us in flashback form, where we learn that apparently Jun and Kazuya are something of childhood friends, if you can believe someone like Kazuya is capable of making them. We also receive Jun's motivation for the movie. Sort of. It's quite vague. Moving on to the present, Jun, who is working for some kind of company, is given the task of infiltrating the private fortress of the Mishima Zaibatsu under the guise of a participant in... the King of Iron Fist Tournament! Yes, the massive world-spanning competition that is the foundation of the entire Tekken universe! But that's not happening. Oh, no, not in this movie. Here, the event is restricted to a small island, you heard me, and is one of the larger evils of this film. The tournament is barely present. I mean, sure, you have fighting, but all that is scenes of battles ending, not a full-length fight in sight. It's like they just set a bunch of people loose and told them to reach the center of the island, casually mentioning that they were expected to kill each other. But enough ranting. Let's move on, shall we? We also have a subplot about Edgeworth using his evil lawyer powers to attempt to murder Kazuya and use the contestants as guinea pigs for his biological weapon experiments. Because, apparently, the Mishima Zaibatsu is producing an army to conquer the world. Or something. So, as the plot advances, we find that June is severely conflicted over how her childhood friend has become a steroid-chugging revenge machine who just happens to be possessed by a devil. Don't ask me how or why, the movie doesn't bother to elaborate. Whenever she confronts Kazuya, he consistently asks her not to interfere and makes numerous threats on her life. These are friends, all right, because that is exactly how I treated my friend, the anime overviewer, but I digress.